Northeast Texas, lying on the interfluve between the Red and Sabine rivers, has been an area that has been largely neglected by tourists, historians, archaeologists, intellectuals, writers, state of Texas enthusiasts, presidents, governors, senators, and the movie industry. But this is beginning to change.
Scholars have recently been astonished to discover here a trauma deficit in the history of the region. This is one of the only places in the world where there is no remembrance of a battle, riot, or plague ever occurring.
To be sure, crime flourished for a time in the early 19th century, and after the Civil War. Northeast Texas was part of the Southern Cotton Belt. There were some lynchings, and segregation persisted as it did in the rest of the South throughout the 1950s.
But Northeast Texas has evolved into a rather pure and alluring form of Americana. It is a land of rich meadows and family-centered towns. It is sometimes called Lake Country for the surprising prevalence of newly minted lakes. Developing anew and apart, Northeast Texas is known today as an unstressed region without significant tensions, long commutes, overscheduling, or long lines.
To understand how Northeast Texas developed this placid, youthful, and wholesome image, we must go back to the 19th century, the crucible for how modern Northeast Texas came to be what it is.
Northeast Texas was originally the home of the Caddo Caddo, about whom little is known, due to Texas Indian policy, which actually was not that enlightened.
Now my cold bar's telling me the last time skedaddle.
The Caddo did leave fragments of their life in the soil, but they are mysterious and enigmatic. On some level, the Caddo exalted the natural world, and thus their things, the bladders of deer, chipmunk skins, and finely shaped pebbles, along with some arrowheads and potter shards, remain behind only as anonymous historical fragments, waiting to be deciphered.
One thing that can be said about the weakest of the Caddo clans, the Caddo, is that they left a kind of blank slate for Northeast Texas to begin anew.
The area still might have had heavier historical baggage if the Spanish had established an outpost here. But one of the reasons for Northeast Texas's relatively untouched aura was the life of Father Francisco Hidalgo, a Spanish priest. Hidalgo was a zealous Roman Catholic missionary, and this area became a product of Hidalgo's successes and failures. He did convince the Spanish, however, to keep the French out of the Northeast Texas.
Rouse, my dear! Rouse! Oh, I'm sorry. Get out! Get out! Fuera de aquí! Sus intrusos de Francia!
He couldn't convince the Indians to live in his missions, nor convince his fellow Spaniards to come to Northeast Texas.
Daya! Daya!
Ana!
Dawi chasun! Dawi chasun!
¿Cómo nos vas a decir?
Cha! 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 Hija de Cristo, ven conmigo en Tejas de Noreste. Noreste, Tejas de Noreste. Es una tierra bonita.
¿Estás loco?
No! Está bonita!
No estás loco.
¡Ven conmigo! ¡Ven conmigo! Oh, Dios.
As land technically Spanish and then Mexican until 1836, but close to the United States, Northeast Texas became an amorphous place, a land where people hid out from the law, squatted on land they didn't own, buried secret treasures, and lived outside of government and ecclesiastical authority.
Early on, people lived in a libertarian environment, which encouraged self-reliance among the early settlers, and freedom from authority. In fact, some settlers even wanted to refer to Northeast Texas as the land of Fredonia, a land of freedom, a term some had wanted to affix to the United States.
The anti-authoritarian, libertarian spirit had its good points.
When you look through the authorities of Western civilization and those intellectuals who have dreamed of a better world, George William Friedrich Hegel, Marx, Mao, Gandhi, John Stuart Mill, John Dewey. And you see the kind of commotion that they've whipped up with revolutions, statist ideologies, in the case of Gandhi, even national pilgrimages of atonement. And you compare that to the kind of peace and quiet that we've enjoyed here in Northeast Texas. No riots, no plagues, no battles that we know of. You really begin to reassess these people, and although they have many interesting ideas, and from our standpoint, they appear really almost like a group of melioristic conmen.
And the bad points.
Come on, we gotta get rid of this trash. Let's pile that on.
You can't throw that outside.
Oh, come on, we gotta get rid of it.
Outside. You cannot throw it. Leading planners such as Andrew Jackson Titus, William Pitt, John Camp, and Samuel Morse did emerge in time, owning large numbers of slaves and raising cotton. But without a straight and reliable river for shipping, the planter class was curtailed. The main class of Northeast Texans were poor whites trying to scrape by on corn, cotton, and black-eyed peas.
Thus, Northeast Texas was a hollow shell, waiting for the meek to inherit it. And one representative, denizen from the time after the Civil War, was a poor, barefoot boy named William Owen, who didn't even visit a town before his 13th birthday.
Hey, you redneck, you clay eater, you hick, you sand eater. Howdy.
My name is William Owens. My first name is a pretty boy name, I know, but my mother named me after a British poet. I started life on this Northeast Texas land. I even ate a peck of it before my 5th birthday. It was sandy land that tasted salty and peculiar, like corn grits that had laid out for a month. And underneath the sand was red clay.
One thing about Northeast Texas soil is that it really gets you used to muddying. Even the catfish love it out here. And you can catch one about as big as a man. In fact, that's what I'm going to do.
Go get it, William. You can do it.
Ah, a water moccasin!
Ah!
Doctor, is there anything I can do? You only said I have 1 week to live.
Well, you can always take a mud bath.
Is that going to help me at all?
No, but it will help your body get more used to being buried in the dirt.
Civil War was harsh on Northeast Texas, though the Yankees never did make it here. This Southern soldier memorialized here in Mount Pleasant actually never had to defend his native ground, but the war took the men, the best horses, and many never returned. In farms like mine, it was the women, mamas, aunts, and meemaws that had to struggle, often on land that, even though it tasted okay, was rented, eroded, and fickle.
This land's mighty hard for planting. Spring rain just floods everything. The August days are so dry, land just cracks out open. I think we'd be better off the Blackland Prairie. We can make better by just planting over there by accident than planting here.
We can't be moving all the time. I'm always in a family kind of way.
Great. We'll just stay right here in Fredonia. I mean, you have the good book and the sandy land, and look, our schools are even have ungraded scholars. Just great.
It's a job for the past 20 years. What don't you understand?
Cotton is our future and our fate.
Boll weevils have reached the river. The beetles are eating a crop that's worth less and less.
That's the only thing that we have. Cotton is what we have to do.
When I began to come of age, I sensed things was hopeless, and I didn't much like working from can till can't, so I'd hide away. Once in Blossom, I went to a school that had a piano. I dreamed on playing it. I asked my mother one day about the possibility.
You've got about as much use for a piano as a hog for a side saddle. Now get to work.